Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. Today's the 3rd of January, 2025, 10:12 in the morning. Is that it? Yeah. And it's 56 degrees, sunny, high 64. Chief's outside enjoying the sun. I mean, it's not hot out there, but he's got his long winter fur on. And he'll be okay. And he's getting along. Thanks for the prayers. Okay, I'm going to go into the live stream and make sure we got a live stream, and then put my posts up while people come in. I'm going to go into the live stream. Okay, a couple of fast posts and we'll get going. And giving people a chance to come in. And then I'll get my email address up there. And that'll be it. Let's see, that one up and that one away. Okay. I'm going to do some praise and we'll get started. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay, let's get into some intel type current events. Israel has set up outposts in southern Lebanon, south of the Litani River, opposite settlements. I think about 9, 10, something like that. And an outpost is not a military base, you know. It probably is a facility that has a tower, that has day-night cameras, has optics. It's sheltered, and it's not going to sustain, you know, artillery barrages and stuff like that. It's to watch what's going on. In addition, I'm pretty sure we have sensors set up over there as well. And gotta get some water. These are to prevent the terrorists from getting close to the settlements and shooting anti-tank missiles, which are shoulder fired. You could hide them under your bed, you know, and whatever else they might try, mortars, katyushas. You know, you could, a small crew, say 2 to 3 guys, could carry a katyusha launcher. It has a base like this. It's got a ramp like that. You could make it out of beer cans. You know, it's junk metal. So a guy could carry the launcher, or maybe one carries the base plate, one carries the launcher, the other carries one or two Katyushas, and they just fire the thing. And they could try to use a time delay to fire it so they could get away, or they just fire it and run away, or whatever they're going to do, right? So Katyushas can go several miles, depending on the genre, what category Katyusha. It can generally get to 10 or 12 miles. These things are not aimable. It's a sheer terrorist weapon. It could miss its target by a half a mile. It could miss it by a lot. Okay? So it's pot luck. All right? That's all it is. All right? That's it. So we're doing that. And we have no intentions of ceasing that. And we last night blew up some intermediate range missiles in Lebanon that Hezbollah was setting up or moving around or doing something with, and they were blown up. So the Lebanese government failed to stop, the army of Lebanon, the real army, failed to stop or do anything about these intermediate range missiles. We told them about it, and they didn't, so they're not fulfilling their obligations of the ceasefire. And Israel says, listen, there's another month approximately to go for the ceasefire, and they're expecting Israel to leave, and that's not happening. As soon as Israel leaves, I would say within 48 hours, maybe less, Hezbollah would be all over South Lebanon again. So it ain't happening, okay? And Israel doesn't care. If they want to start the war up again, they can. We've severely infringed upon Iran's ability to transfer weapons into Syria, which were predominantly coming into Lebanon. Predominantly were going from Iran to Iraq to Syria to Lebanon. And those days are over. They may be able to get a tiny amount through. That's about it. Okay? So we did that. We also set outposts up in Syria. The total of Lebanon and Syria outposts is approximately 20, but I think there might be a few more in Syria than in Lebanon. And it's a similar thing. Now, there's a fear going around Israel that you have not heard in the media. A few weeks ago, 2, 3, something like that, a month maximum, the UN General Assembly said that Israel should leave the West Bank, Golan Heights, and Gaza. But there was no enforcement action taken on this. Now, they get the UN General Assembly to say that Israel has to leave now Syria and Lebanon and the Golan Heights, Lebanon in general, I said that, and Syria. The United States could veto it. But there's a fear that Biden is not going to veto it. He could abstain or he could just vote for it. I doubt he would vote for it. He would abstain. And then I believe it will go through because they need a negative vote, an opposition vote, to stop it, just one. Now, that would be step one. Step two would have to be enforcement action against Israel. Okay. Would the United States go for that? Well, Biden's a piece of garbage. Let's get real. Okay. Remember what he did to your borders, how he responded to the drones, like, So rest assured, Biden is capable, and his motive for this would be, number one, stab Israel in the back, which he likes to do, and also create a greater mess for Trump to inherit. Okay? Would Israel withdraw? This is $1 million question. I don't know if they just did it and they didn't threaten military action on the part of the UN, I seriously doubt that Israel would do it. If they said we're going to get um, uh, military action going against you, I don't think Israel would do it. If they assembled an army together and laid siege to Israel, like surrounding it, like in Zechariah 12, that could be interesting. Now, from the time it would go to the UN Security Council, which it really hasn't done, and then they would go yes, and then Biden doesn't do anything about it. He abstains, and then they say they're going to get military action, and then Netanyahu says, I want to address the UN and all that stuff. Trump will probably be in office. They don't go that fast with military action. They have to decide what the action's going to be. Then they got to ask the member states to contribute. Then they got to get the UN army. Then they got to actually deploy. And then what are they going to do? Bomb Israel? See, but here's the problem. You ain't hearing this in the media in general. Your social media, you might pick it up. Is if Biden abstains and they vote in favor of it, that Israel has to leave and then vote for military action, but of an unknown origin or timing or size, then Trump inherits it, and Trump can't really call for another vote because China and Russia would veto that. So this is something else Trump has to inherit. And he is really capable of telling the UN, if you push me like this, I'm going to drop out of the UN. And that would likely cause the UK to go out, and maybe a few other countries. South Korea might go out, Taiwan might go out, Germany might go out. It could happen. It could happen. I don't know. Is it a real threat yet? No. Is it a potential threat looming in the horizon, in the background someplace? Yeah. Is it highly likely to get legs? I don't know. This is end times. Don't think that ordinary rules of engagement would apply. They don't. Okay? So it's a concern. So we also hit some targets in Syria yesterday. The Houthis last night fired a missile at us. We hit in targets in Syria. They were military targets, weapons and stuff. Now, probably weapons we just realized are there. Now, another thing is, this is rather important and it's not easy to digest regarding Syria. At this point, the state or the fate of the two Russian bases, the air base, I think they call it Al-Afkim, and the Navy base, which is on the Mediterranean by Latakia, Syria. And the air base is a long walk away. It's not far away. The fate of those is still up in the air. I mean, the Houthis have not moved in and squatted on them. They're not sleeping in the barracks or anything. And the Russians, I mean, we don't know what happened with that. The bases are still intact, and the Russians are, for the most, not there. It would appear to me that Russia and Iran, probably along with other groups like Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis that are opposed to Al-Qaeda and ISIS, would be trying avidly to make the chaos in Syria worse. The chaos is already pretty pronounced. To make it worse, Ukraine just transferred many tons of wheat flour to Syria for free. So the government of Syria, the Al-Qaeda, ISIS guys with the new paint job, are happy about that because they get kudos with the people. Hey, free flower, you know. Okay, they got a money problem. Do not think they don't. The government is serious. So Ukraine's going to send more. Ukraine hates Russia. Russia hates Ukraine. Ukraine may be giving them military support of some low level. They're not going to give them, you know, attack them because the United States would bust a gut if they did that. They're not allowed to go donate attack them to Al Qaeda and ISIS because they could be used against the American bases and the British bases. They're not going to do that. But he could give them training, intel, you know, stuff like that. I don't know what he's going to do. But he wants to hurt Russia. The government of Syria, the HTS guys, Al Qaeda and ISIS, formerly, are not happy with Iran, and they're not happy with Russia, who's an ally of Iran. So Iran and Russia could be trying to stage more chaos and effect an overthrow of these characters in Syria, and then try to swarm in from Iraq, and Russia may help with air support, and we have another fiasco grande in Syria that could lead to Damascus being a ruse heap, I don't know. And their efforts may fail, but I'm rather certain they're trying. No, America moved troops in to protect the Kurds. Turkey has troops in Syria to kill the Kurds. Turkey set up a buffer zone in Syria, 35 kilometers inside Syria. They expanded their buffer zone. And it's hundreds of kilometers long. It's much of the border, if not all the border, with Turkey and Syria. Now, in miles, that is 15 miles, roughly, deep into Syria. That's not such a big buffer zone in depth, but the length is substantial. And Turkey's belly aching that Israel wants to do the same thing with the outposts, you know. Do I think the Turkish forces and the Turkish-backed militants up there would actually fight against the Kurds while they're being protected by United States troops wearing United States uniforms, real American soldiers, not the SDF, which is Syrian backed by America? It's end times, who knows? I doubt it, but you never know. Turkey wants to start a caliphate, in other words, revive the Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire. Iran was trying the same thing, but I think it's safe to say Iran failed. So the Houthis last night shot again at Israel, Jerusalem, a missile. It was intercepted, taken down successfully. Some shrapnel damaged the house, probably broke the tiles on the roof. Nobody got hurt. But the people again had to go run to the shelters in the middle of the night, and that is the goal of the Houthis, is to keep Israel in a constant state of warfare. Now, we're going to be talking a lot about spiritual warfare and terrorism and you today. Okay? May as well start now. On this count, I'm going to be discreet. Okay? But those of you who are going to understand what I'm saying. Okay? If others don't, just send me an email. My email address is in the description box, the lowest line down, and it's in the chat up at the top, and it's israelgiving with the number 7@gmail.com. Okay, here we go. What is there in Jerusalem that is very controversial at the present time? Not a temple. I mean, there's a named synagogue in Jerusalem far away from the old city, but that's no big deal. It's a beautiful synagogue as far as synagogues go, but it's no great deal. All right, so the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. That's a key point in a lot of the prophecy that the Islamic people follow based on the Hadith, which isn't the Quran proper. It's an auxiliary or an add-on book. And it says that when the Jews get basically their concern is when the Jews get the red heifer, the ultra-Orthodox Jews, which they have, according to numerous reports, they'll kill, sacrifice, burn the ashes, burn the red heifer, use the ashes to make purifying water. The ultra-Orthodox will sprinkle the water on the people. Then they will go up to the Temple Mount to pray. Which they won't do now because they feel it's a holy place and they're not holy enough, but with the water from the red heifer, they would feel that they would. Then the way they imagine it is when they're up there, they will feel rather disgusted about the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque dedicated to another god. You shall have no other gods before you, is in the Ten Commandments. And they're not going like that, and they're going to knock down. They're going to just break into a frenzy and a riot and knock down Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Then they believe Israel will get a false Messiah. So you don't hear this in America or Europe, okay, but it's real. The false Messiah will tell the Jews to kill all the Muslims. That is not followed by the peaceful Sunnis, like, Oman and UAE and Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Jordan to a good extent, not completely. And so these peaceful Muslims don't buy into this, okay? These peaceful Sunni Muslims don't believe that Muhammad ascended to heaven from this Dome of Rock area because they believe it was built after Muhammad died. Probably was. But the others do. And this is going to be I would believe, can be, or likely going to be a key factor in producing Zechariah 12 siege. Okay? Now, there is nobody building a temple in Israel. I don't care what jackasses on the internet are telling you. There is nothing going on. And there has been no sacrifice of a red heifer publicly. and they've not made that water, and they're not administering it on the people. Nothing's happened. All right. I'm thinking. So now we're seeing missiles flying over Jerusalem. The Houthi missiles aren't so precise. Did you get where I'm coming from yet? False flag. Let's say Iran and the Houthis in the desperation. And Iran follows this doctrine of the Israel, the red heifer of the temple, knock down Dome the rock, false Messiah. They follow that. The leaders don't, but the people do. So let's say the Houthis tagged the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque with a missile and blew it up. If they said, hey guys, to the other Islamic people, we're sorry we made a mistake, you're not dealing with a very forgiving bunch of people. Especially when it comes to their number 4 most holy place. The numero uno is in Saudi Arabia, that black thing, whatever they call it. And the Houthis could be in very bad shape. They could become enemies of a lot of Islam if they did this. So if the Houthis did this, would they be likely to say, no, we didn't do it, Israel did it, and they're doing a false flag and blaming it on us? You getting the idea? Now, I'm going to take you deeper in this to show you that this is a possible likelihood. I'm not saying this is going to definitely happen, but it's a likelihood. Let me go jump in the live stream to see if I have to throw the garbage out. All right. Now, I'm going to show you events that are going to be preceding Zechariah 12, which some of you are familiar with Malachi 3. Verse 1, behold, I will send my Malach, my messenger, that's Elijah, as you'll see, and he shall prepare the way before me. And Adonai, that's soft for Lord, whom you seek shall suddenly come to his temple. Even the Malach of the covenant. Now, Adonai coming to his temple is the glory of the God of Israel, which is that angel Michael, who in Exodus 23, verse 20, put his name in Jehovah. That's who was with Moses and Aaron and the children of Israel in the wilderness and the tabernacle and all that. Whom you delight in, behold, he shall come, saith the Lord. And now what do we see? But who may abide the day of his coming? And that word for coming is in Hebrew bo, and it means to come. So it's saying who may stand or abide. Yom bo, day come, the day comes. And that's him operating openly. Him and Apostle John are in Israel now. I'm not going to dig deeper into that, but believe me, they're here. They've been here for years. And who shall stand when he appeareth? Now, the word for appeareth is Strong's number 7200 in Hebrew. It's Ra'ah, Resh Aleph Hey. And this translation isn't so hot. Let's see how Strong's treats it. It means appear, approve, behold. So we could go with appear. For he is like a refiner's fire and a fuller's soap, and he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, or the Levites, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Lord an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto Jehovah, as in the days of old, as in the former years. Now, that would imply to me heavily that the temple's there, but not the glory of God of Israel yet. It would also imply to me that Elijah not only has to train the Levites, there's probably at least 1 million known Levites running around Israel. The only real tribes here now are Judah, Levite, and a little Benjamin. Okay. And you do encounter people here frequently that don't know what tribe they're from. And you encounter a lot of people here that know they're Levites, or Kohanim, which is a part of the Levites, the descendants of Aaron. That's what I am. But you encounter people that really don't know either. They know they're Jewish, but they don't know. So anyway, nobody that I ever heard of knows by passing down the heritage over the many generations that they're sons of Zadok. So first you have your Levites, then part of your Levites are from Aaron's line, so they're Kohanim, and part of those are the sons of Zadok. So not every Levite is a Kohanim, and not every Kohanim is the son of Zadok. That's the way they teach logic in the colleges. So that's how you would say it. So, do we build the next temple, or does the next temple come down from Jehovah? We go to Ezekiel 37. The last three verses starting in 26. Ezekiel 37, verse 26. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. Now, contrary to what a lot of you know, yes, Yeshua paid a price for your sins, lawlessness, and so forth, but the lamb is the peace offerings. Behold, the Lamb of God. The sin offering is a steer, like a Texas Longhorn kind of thing, something like that, right? A steer. You never read in the scriptures, behold, the steer of God. He was a lamb, right? That's why he was in the manger when he had to leave right after he was born. Okay, so the peace covenant, the shalom covenant, is Yeshua, the lamb, the peace offering. Okay, so I will make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant. Thus, everlasting life, but that's another topic I don't want to get into right now, because I'll deviate too much. Everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them. Now, the word for place is Strong's number 5414. It's pronounced Natan. Nun Tor, Nun Sophet. Anyway, Natan. And I will place them and multiply them. And then it says, and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. The midst is Jerusalem. That's the middle. Place, the word for place and the word for set is the same word. Strong's number 5414. Natan. They twisted it a little bit to throw you off on purpose. So I'll read it a different way. And I will place Natan, place them, and multiply them. And that means you should buy a 40-foot trailer of diapers as a joke. But you get my drift on that. And will set, but let's use the same word that they did 6 or 7 words earlier. I will place my sanctuary, and that's Mikdash, temple, in the midst of them forevermore. So who puts the temple there? But of course, Jehovah, let's keep going. My tabernacle also shall be with them. In 2 Maccabees 2, it explains to us, and that's considered a very accurate historical book, that Jeremiah, before the Babylonian captivity, took the tabernacle to Mount Nebo, where Moses died, and hid it in a cave and sealed up the cave until the time Jehovah shows mercy to Israel, which is found in Zechariah 1 or 2. And those days are coming right up in your face. They're at the doors now. Year of redemption. And I will, my sanctuary, my tabernacle also shall be with them. Yea, I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Now, is it possible that before the temple comes, we have the tabernacle? Well, I have no way to argue against that. Is it a possibility? It is. I don't know. How would I argue in favor of that? Well, Elijah trains the Levites. Now, this is not just how to sacrifice the poor animal on the altar. He has to teach them how to live their life correctly. They can't be hypocrites, liars, cheats, swindlers, adulterers, fornicators, drunks, druggies, You're going to have a Levite selling ecstasy and getting stoned every day and then going and doing sacrifices? Come on. The Levites have to understand the Old and the New Testament to get away from what they're taught. Now, under normal circumstances, I don't think this is a job that's going to take a week. I think it's going to be a bigger job than that. But to make the offerings acceptable unto the people, you'll like this. The people can't be hypocrites and bring the offerings. They can't go to court and sue their neighbors and fellow Israelites and throw them out in the street if they can't pay the rent, cut their electricity off if they can't pay it. You can't have that. These are the weightier things of the law, and then go to the temple with your wealth and riches, ill-begotten according to the law, and rip off the widows, the orphans, the strangers, the non-Israelite believer, stuff like that, and pay for sacrificial animals without blemish and expect the Lord to think that those offerings are acceptable. He wouldn't. He would be mad at the Levites for accepting offerings from these ganefs. A ganef is a Yiddish word for crook. Okay? Grosser ganef is an extreme crook, like a politician, for instance. Okay. Am I making my point? I don't think anybody's going to have issues with this. The people doing the offerings have to be walking right. They can't go take the money, buy a sacrificial animal, and give it to the Levites and the Kohanim, and they sacrifice it, and then they go back home and rub Buddha's belly or pray to other gods or take advantage of widows, orphans, poor. And behave the way they do now. You can't do that. Years ago, under the reign of Netanyahu, the worst leader Israel ever had in the history of Israel, going back through the Old Testament, they lightened the standards for lawyers in Israel. They made it way easier to become a lawyer. Not that it was ever that hard. Initially, become a lawyer, you went to 4 years of college, you got like a bachelor's degree, and you were a lawyer. They didn't train them very well. Neither does America train lawyers very well. If you want to really learn to be an effective lawyer in America, you got to go to law school, pass the bar, and that's very hard. And then you've got to learn how to practice law. The normal way is, if you're a good Satan bot, the big firms will hire you. The more experienced lawyers at the firm teach you how to be a wicked lawyer. The other way to do it is hard. You got to take pro bono cases for people fighting the big firms. Poor people. And they can't pay you. You got to do the work for free. And then you see how the big firms deal with you. You learn their tricks. And if you do a few of these cases over a period of 3 or 4 years, you're probably about as effective as they are. But you don't have the manpower. So you never could be as effective as them, because you don't have 300 or 400 lawyers with, several hundred legal assistants and legal secretaries and all that stuff to back you up. You could never. They'd swarm you, with paperwork. So there are very, very few people that learn how to really be lawyers. Now, the Israel legal system is horrible. There are no jury trials. So if you got an S-bot sitting on the bench, you're finished. No jury trials. Yeah. And he made it twice as easy to become a lawyer, so there's more lawyers. And the lawyers are making much less money, and they're more unscrupulous because they can't. There's a lot of lawyers that don't work as lawyers anymore. They gave it up. So they're pretty bad. Netanyahu. Okay. Well, the people can't behave like they do now. So the Levites will probably be working with them too. And so will Elijah. Now, we're talking about Elijah now. We're not talking about John the Baptist, the spirit of Elijah. They asked him if he was Elijah. He said no. If they asked the Elijah to come in Malachi 3, if you're Elijah, he's going to say, I'm Elijah. Ani Eliah Hanavi. I am Elijah the prophet. Now, what happens? What is Elijah going to do about that? Well, remember in the Old Testament, Kings, I think it is, that witch Jezebel was sending her dogs after him. The people, her priests are evil witches. And Elijah challenged them to a duel of offerings. And they built an altar and they put a bull on it, I think. And, the idea was that fire would come down from heaven and accept the offering. And the priests were banging their heads against the wall trying to get that to work, and it wouldn't work. And was Elijah mocking them? Oh, yeah. Keep it up, boys. Maybe your God's still sleeping. Maybe he went on a vacation, And then they started cutting themselves to offer blood to their God to do it, and it didn't work. Then Elijah said, okay, it's my turn. He dug a trench around the area where he was going to do the burnt offering and filled it with water and poured water on it, over it, through it, in it, And as you know, water puts fire out, right? And then he asked the Lord to send fire down from heaven, and of course the fire came down from heaven. Accepted the offering. At this point, we could make an assumption that Elijah was probably a priest, a Kohanim, because Jehovah accepted the offering. Scripture doesn't say that, but I would think it's the case. Moving forward, so what did Elijah do? He killed 150 of the priests. He cut their heads off. Now, do you think Elijah said, now, boys, don't take this the wrong way. You lost the challenge. So what I want you all to do is take off your shirts and your tunics and kneel down and lean forward so I can get a clear shot with my sword and cut your heads off. Do you think that happened? If you do, I have a bridge that connects New York to London, I'll sell you. It didn't happen. He took a sword and went after them and cut the heads off 150. Do you think the Spirit came upon Elijah similar to Samson? I do. You can think what you want. That's what I think. 150 people to go after them with a sword and cut their head off. They're not going to just say, okay, it's my time to die, no problem. Come on. Church doesn't teach you this stuff. Think about it. What do you think? He outran a chariot. He went by a creek and God had the ravens bring him food twice a day. Does this sound normal to you? Zechariah 4:14. The two witnesses are the Shtaim. The last verse in Zechariah 4. Shtaim b'nei Yitzhar. Two sons. B'nei is sons. Shtaim is two. Yitzhar, oil. Purified oil means anointed. It's like code, sort of. Not number code, but it's God's way of telling you they're his anointed sons. Apostle John and Elijah, the two witnesses, they came down from heaven. That's why Elijah went up to heaven. A chariot from heaven came down, like the company car, maybe, right? Sort of like making a joke, right? And he went up in a whirlwind. Well, how many times do you see people go up in a whirlwind? You see them on game shows and, doing public performances in Las Vegas, going up to heaven in a whirlwind. Come on. What did Yeshua say? Nobody who goes up to heaven, but who comes down from heaven. How? So Elijah never died. What about Apostle John? Well, Yeshua, talking to the disciples who were to become the apostles, said, there be some standing here among you that shall not taste of death until they see the kingdom of God. This was like 2,000 years ago, approximately, right? But when you read the real manuscript and you understand it says someone, a person, not a group. And that would be Apostle John, who was told he must yet prophesy again to many nations and tongues, which never yet happened. So he had everlasting life, and he's still here, and he's in Israel, enough on that type of subject matter. But Elijah's here too, and they both were born of a human man and a human woman of the correct lineage, and they're going to go and die. It can't be Moses because Scripture says it's elected unto man to die only once, and Moses died. He came down from heaven and appeared on the Mount of Transfiguration with Elijah. Does that mean he's one of the two witnesses? Only if you like going to churches with big expensive buildings that nobody lives in, even though if they're poor. It doesn't mean that. It means he came down from heaven. So did Elijah. Why didn't Apostle John come down from heaven? Because he was walking around in a flesh body on the earth at the time. Oh, I see. I didn't know we were going here when I started out today, but it looks like we're having fun. So back into Ezekiel 37. In verse 27, my tabernacle shall also be with them. I will be their God, and they shall be my people. So obviously Elijah did a good job. When the offerings are acceptable unto Jehovah, then the blessings of the Lord come on Israel. But you can't have a bunch of rotten people getting ill-gotten gain buying sacrificial animals and having the Levites sacrifice them and expect God's going to bless them. That's what happened in the days of Yeshua. The Pharisees and the Sadducees. It was very sad, you see. See, I got to have my humor. Okay, verse 28. And the Goyim, the heathen, shall know that I, Jehovah, do sanctify. That's Kadosh, Kadosh Kadashim. Holiest of holies. Kadosh is holy, Kadashim is the plural, holy is the holies. That's the same word here, kadosh. That I, Jehovah, do make holy Israel, when my sanctuary, my temple, shall be in the midst of them forevermore. And that's why Elijah then, now that lights the world up. Hey, they got Elijah, they got Apostle John, they got a temple. Oh, they're doing miracles. What the heck is going to come of us? Let's kill them, right? So they surround, they're scared, so instead of just rushing in, they lay a siege around us. And then we're approaching the time, or we're at the time, when the sun goes dark and the moon turns to blood. The enemies are, I believe, burned up first, and the bad ones burned up with them. And then what the heck happens? Church never teaches this. But your Bible does, so you can call me a crackpot, or you can listen to your Bible. Zechariah 12:10. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplications. Now they're believers. Or you're going to tell me about a scripture that God pours his spirit out on people that are not believers, whose sins have not been forgiven? God takes this in away in a day. He's God. And they shall look upon me whom they have pierced. Well, who do you think they stuck a spear in his side when he was being crucified and water and blood came out? Which some people say is the start of the so-called church. And the water would be baptism, the blood would be like from communion and covered by the blood. And I don't know how to attack that theory. So it could be true. Maybe it really is true. Probably. I don't know. It sounds good to me. And they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. In that day shall there be a great mourning in Jerusalem, as the mourning of Hebron in the valley. Okay, so when they killed Yeshua, did everybody go mourn him? Oh, maybe Miriam. That's church talk. That's the real name of Mary. Maybe she did. Probably Apostle John, maybe 2 or 3 other people, but not all the families of Israel. They see him in the clouds, the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds, seated on the right hand of power, God the Father. And what happens when they see him? I'll answer that in a minute. I got to get up and shut the door, and I'll be right back. What happens when they see him? Go to John 6:40. I'll be right back. John 6:40 says, those that are believers and see him shall have everlasting life. It's not immortality, but it's like before the flood when they lived 900 years plus. It'd be longer than that because we get a double portion. Gee, the church ain't teaching you that. What about 1 John 3:2? Beloved, now are we the sons of God, and it does not yet appear what we shall be. But we know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. Appear, not return to earth. Now let's go to Malachi 4, just to cement this down. Verse 1. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud and all the do wickedly shall be stubble, and the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith Jehovah of armies, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. This appears to be the bad ones in Israel getting burned up. But unto you that fear my name shall the sun, S-U-N, in Hebrew it's Shemesh, of righteousness arise with healing in his extremities, in his wings his extremities, and kanaf is the word in Hebrew, and you shall go forth. It's what it really says is you shall frolic about like the baby calf out of the stall. You'll be young again. And this can happen next week. It wouldn't shock me one tiny bit, but I think it'll take longer. But they don't teach this. Yet your Bible does. So you again have to make a decision who you're going to believe. The guy with the building and the denomination, or your Bible. You have two paths in front of you. The lawyers call that bifurcating. You don't need a word like that. It says two paths. One is to eternal life, and the other is to eternal death. And where do you want to go? You want to go with the Bible, or you want to be, if you reject knowledge, Yeshua will reject you. Which way do you want to go? It's up to you. If you go the correct path, a lot of your friends and your relatives in social life will reject you as a moron. They rejected Yeshua, didn't they? Bottom line is the path that many find it, at least to destruction. Straight and narrow is the correct path, and few find it. So you draw your own conclusion. So what? Now we're going to go back to the Dome of Rock and the last month. I had no idea I was doing this today. It's good though, from the Lord. So is Elijah going to do sacrifices and offerings right near the Dome of Rock and the last month? And we're talking 600, 800, 900 feet away is where the Pool of Siloam area is, and that's probably the real site of the temple. The Wailing Wall is more than likely left over from the Roman fort, Fort Antonius. Yeshua said not one stone will be left standing, but why would Yeshua give a hoot about a Roman temple, a Roman fort? I don't think he would. And that's what's been left, but they obscure it. So am I telling you that they're going there and they're praying at a wall of a Roman fort? Yeah. It makes Yeshua look like a false prophet because he said no stone will be left standing. So Elijah's going to go do offerings and sacrifices to Jehovah. train the Levites to do that right in front of the Dome of the Rock and the Alamos Mosque. You shall have no other gods before you. That's in the Ten Commandments. But how does that work? Well, the abomination monuments to another god would be before them. I don't think you can make that one work. Jehovah's a jealous God. I don't think it'll work. Do you think you'll wake up in the morning one day and see in the paper that Yahoo sent the IDF bulldozers to the Dome of the Rock to demolish it? I don't expect that. Not from him. Could you expect that from Elisha and Apostle John? Yeah. Maybe they get it done before. I don't know. Somebody will do it. Could it be the Houthis will do it by mistake or a false flag or something? Sure. If they did this and the Dome of the Rock and the Alamos Mosque were gone, would it open the door and get us closer for the temple to be there and Elisha to start working? Oh, I think so. Do you know what to pray for now? Sure you do. You know what to pray for. You shall have no other gods before you. Are you supposed to have temples and places to worship the other gods? How would that work? Gee, I don't think it does. Deuteronomy 28 explains to you the blessings of the law. You're the temple of the Holy Spirit, not the temple. You're not the temple of the glory of God of Israel. All right. Let me check the live stream. I'm in Israel. There's all sorts of Hebrew in the room here on labels and stuff. I don't like colon. No, I personally don't like colon. I don't care for Netanyahu at all. I think it's the worst leader Israel ever had, going back thousands of years. We never had a leader that had the guts, the satanic guts to run the parades. You know what parades I mean that Netanyahu does. Through Jerusalem, no less. No. Horrible. He's horrible. All right. Why can't you stop terrorists? Because And Israel has much experience in this, maybe more so than any country in the world. As long as you have people out in the streets, as long as you have people on transportation like buses, trains, as long as you have people going to public places, restaurants, malls, schools, even, you're subject to terrorism. One of the things you likely don't know is on December 31st, there was an additional car ramming in Brooklyn, New York, in the Orthodox Jewish neighborhood in Brooklyn. A guy hit 3 people with his car. This was in very close proximity timing with the other terrorist attacks. And he stopped the car and got out and said, "I'm sorry." Close timing proximity to the other terrorist attacks against Jews in New York and Brooklyn. Car ramming. Wasn't drunk or stoned. Of course it was. He just figured I'd make a mockery of the Jews and ridicule them. And what are they going to do to me? They're not going to put me in prison. I stopped. I said it was an accident. It's up to them to prove it was a car ramming, and they never charged them. Was he setting the stage for more such attacks? Likely. These pro-Palestinians took over Times Square, chanting for an intifada. Be careful, they're going to get their intifada. So they usually train the terrorists. The terrorist is looking to be a martyr will frequently go to the mosques, and they'll plug him in with somebody, or he'll reach out on social media, and they'll introduce him, and they'll give him usually in Israel, they use a drug. It's a combination drug. I think it's ecstasy, PCP, speed, other thing. I don't know exactly what it is. And it gives them a lot of stamina, endurance, and makes them feel good. And they're hard to kill when they're on the truck. Okay, so if you shoot them or stab them or clobber them in the head, it's hard to incapacitate them. Much harder than on a regular person without the drug. And they're also going to be taught how to do the various attacks they're going to do, be it a suicide bomb, a stabbing, what kind of knife to use, where to stab them, how many times to stab them, where to find a good location to stab them or shoot them or whatever, right? And then they're jettisoned back into their own life, and they can pick their own time and date, or they may be given a time and date. They don't worry about the person getting interrogated and giving a lead to them about them that trained them and helped them, because the guy's going to die at the scene normally. That's why they make sure they have this drug. One of the reasons is so the guy can keep going. And basically, you got a lot of trouble stopping them. If you're worried about a car ramming, what you do is walk on sidewalks that have parked cars. It's very difficult to affect a car ramming. In addition, if you see the car coming, all you got to do is run off the sidewalk into the car that's parked on the side, or just throw yourself on the car if you have to, and you're not going to get hit, or if he hits the car you throw yourself on, it's probably just going to propel you off the car or something. You're not going to get, really hurt. Most likely just scraped up, if that, Of course, he could also throw you off the car, and then the car that he hit could plow into you, but it's pretty unlikely. With parked cars, they're pretty close together, and sure, the guy could, in some remote instances, get up on the sidewalk uh, and come barreling down the sidewalk, even though there's parked cars on the side, but usually they have trouble getting up there. There's traffic lights and crossing signals and maybe garbage cans and different obstacles. It's not their ideal situation. Their ideal situation is to drive down a street where the sidewalk has no cars parked on the side and get some speed and just take the wheel and swerve up on the sidewalk and hold people down. That's the way to do it. And by the time people realize what's happening, the car is probably hitting them. So how do you stop that? How many streets are there in the city? It's really hard to stop it. In Israel, soldiers and border police stand behind concrete barriers. And when the idiots try to car ram them, they fire at him with their rifles, and they shoot the guy through the window, usually kill him or severely injure him. And the car hits something, but it rarely hits them. Take cover, but it's not easy to do, especially if there's no parked cars to jump in between or to hide behind. So you could go in a building if you have time. Yeah, it's rough. Shooting attacks. They could use a number of guns. In America, it's easy to get different kinds of guns. They just go to some area. They like to do this in confined areas, not so much out on the street, although it does happen. But when you start shooting out on the street, what happens is people run away. And when people put distance between them and the shooter, these guys didn't take a 2-week course in how to shoot a handgun at moving targets under stress. They're not that good at it. So they like to go in a restaurant because people are confined in the restaurant. And they start walking through the restaurant, just shooting people sitting at tables. Sidewalk cafes are very dangerous because they could just walk up on the sidewalk and then boom, 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 boom. I'd say stay off sidewalk cafes. Subway cars, very dangerous. There's nowhere to go. And in cities like New York, there's not that many people carrying guns. So if the guy's in a subway car in a moving subway shooting at you, the best remedy is to kill him. And for that, you probably need a gun. Hard to stop. Putting a bomb on a subway or a bus from a suicide attacker, a backpack, 30, 40 pounds of explosives, goes on the bus or the subway car, detonates, kills them. Another way to do it is he leaves his explosive charges in his backpack He stands by the doors when the subway's open. The backpack's on the floor. He waits till just before, and then as the doors are closing, he jumps out, leaving his backpack there. And then the train pulls out, and by the time the people in America figure out what happened, they're already blown up. Israelis are trained, the citizens, to look for these left behind packages and get the heck out of there. Although, where the heck are you going to go on a subway? Well, you have to go into the subway car. Another car. Sniping attacks. That's rare for them. They usually don't have the right equipment. They don't have the right training. You'll almost never hear, close to never hear that. Are they going to likely do a terrorist attack in Bakersfield, California, or Topeka, Kansas, or Wichita Falls, or cities that only an American would know about? No, they're not going to go for those kind of cities because they want the Muslims of the world to know there was a terrorist attack in San Francisco, New York, Chicago, Boston, Miami, Atlanta, Washington, D.C., Seattle, big city that people are familiar with the names of these cities. With little cities, then they're not interested. I think the threat level is very high in cities of 2 million and up, 3 million, even 2 3 million and up. Not so much in little cities that nobody ever heard of. They're going to be looking for icon places. Okay. Some cities are icons, like New York. I don't think they're going to be hitting America and California right off because California is very liberal and they like liberal. Although New York is very liberal, and look what they're doing to New York, so you can't always go by that. So they could hit California. They're probably not going to hit Sacramento because people don't know about it. They're not going to hit a lot of places. San Francisco would be the city most affiliated to sin and paganism that they would go after. Okay? Now, let's say you're in an underground parking lot at a mall or anywhere you're building and you see somebody following you, or you think that they're following you. This could likely not be a terrorist because terrorists are focused on hitting multiple targets at the same time. But it could be. So what do? Well, if you're armed, you can draw your gun and just keep it out of sight so the guy can't tell the police you were brandishing. Don't let him know what your gun looks like. To make a case against brandishing, he has to say he had a chrome-plated revolver with a short barrel or something like that. So don't let him know what kind of gun you have. And threaten the guy, and if he keeps closing distance on you, you shoot him. If you think your life is in danger, but you could get in trouble because you got to make sure he has a weapon. You know. But let's say somebody's following you. They could be following you with their car or on foot. First thing, I command all you unclean spirits inside the person following me, or working with or through the person following me, to come out from this person immediately and cease and desist working with him and using him, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. That's the end of that. And if he's just under witchcraft and sorcery, then you say, and I cancel any witchcraft, sorcery, spells, enchantments, targeting or affecting this person. It's all null and void now, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. So now he has no more witchcraft on him. And he's probably not going to want to bother with you at this point. Can you use this with this spiritual warfare against terrorists? Yeah. Yeah. They're generally not going to have an unclean spirit because they're going out and playing martyr, but they're going to likely be under witchcraft, sorcery, spells, and enchantments, which you can break. And then the person may give up the terrorist attack. Okay? So you've got tools of warfare, you can use them. Okay? Why not? Mark 16, what is it, verse 17? These signs shall follow those that believe in my name, they shall cast out devils. Church never reads that. You certainly don't pay attention to it. Okay. Let's check the live stream. I can take questions. I'm Israeli. I've lived in Israel many years. Not that many Israelites have been born here. Okay. Let me go into my notes. Biden is now talking about reviewing plans to attack Iran. Is he going to do this just before the Trump inauguration to make more troubles for Trump? It looks like it's a very distinct possibility. I can't guarantee it, but it looks like it. The US dollar is now making noticeable gains against the euro, British pound, and many, many other currencies, but not the Israeli shekel. It's not making gains against the shekel, but I did check the euro and the British pound. It is making noticeable gains. Not little tiny ones, but not big ones either. Let's see what gold and silver's up to. If the dollar's up, gold and silver is probably down. Yeah, it's not doing well. 26.55 on gold. And what do I got to do to get silver? I got to do another search. That was nice. Oh, silver's doing okay. 29.70. Let's see if we could get spot oil price. It's probably pretty normal. Oh, just wait a little while and you'll see this stuff go crazy. It's a scam site. Now the Brent is at 75. Regular oil is probably around 70, 72. It doesn't seem to be very marked difference at all here, so I don't think much is going on with the oil right now. All right, back on my notes. There's rumors that Bashar Assad was poisoned in Moscow and he was treated at home and recovered. I think these are pretty legitimate rumors that probably happened. The U.S. Capitol was locked down yesterday, something to do with a bomb scare pertaining to a car. They moved the barrier gates back and the bomb squad was there. So there was... maybe they overreacted to a threat, or maybe they actually did find a threat. They're not talking. There's an ex-CIA agent saying that there's 1,000 plus Al-Qaeda and ISIS-trained agents in America. Well, there's millions. You know. By the way, prayer requests. Let's deal with those. Got a prayer request for a dog named Trixie, rather ill. A dog named Trixie, pray for healing. The dog is older and not doing good. You know what I just went through. So, but pray avidly for Trixie the dog to be healed. Pull through. Okay, for a person named JJ, Jack, JJ, Jack. Healing, person has the flu. Pray for healing for JJ. SB, Sam Bravo. SB, Sam Bravo. SB. This person is pretty ill. Has pneumonia. The lungs are doing badly. Pray for healing for SB, Sam Bravo, and for this person, SB, to also understand the true gospel. We've got a prayer request for, let me check something on this. I might have made a typo. Give me a second. did make a typo. Glad I picked it up. Okay, prayer requests for SS, Sierra Sierra, SS, Sierra Sierra, SS. The prayer request is for healing from headaches, healing from headaches, and also to get discharged medically from the military. So for SS, healing for headaches and to be medically discharged from the military. Okay, that's it for prayer requests. There was a terrorist attack on a freeway in South Carolina with an 18-wheeler. And I believe the person was stopped before the attack was successful. So there was another attempt with an 18-wheeler. Again, you're talking lone wolves. Okay? I would tell you to avoid train travel now for many weeks to come. Remember, in the past few years, we saw many train derailments and various crashes, and the trains were carrying hazardous materials. Now, they generally will not mix a cargo train with a passenger train, but be careful. I'd say avoid the trains if you can, because there's been so many crashes of various sorts in the past 2 or 3 years. I would say find another means of traveling. Now, when I say that, I mean the real railroads like Southern Pacific and, you know, that kind of stuff, not a subway or, a trolley car or something like that. I mean the real big ones. The guy that had the car that blew up outside the Trump Tower in Las Vegas had 20 years as a Green Beret. He was a very sophisticated military trained guy. Homegrown or converted, got put into fanaticism, terrorism. In addition to firing a drone and a missile at Israel last night, the Houthis were engaging the United States Navy. Now, I don't have details on that yet. This originated from Arabic media, and it probably is true, but did they damage the American ships or what happened? We're not picking it up yet. It'll come out. Apple Computers just paid $95 million to settle a lawsuit that was accusing Apple of having that Siri thing, that question answering voice, that the Siri thing was eavesdropping on personal conversations. America is saying January 20th is a very dangerous time when Trump's destined to be inaugurated as president. They may start right in then and there. I don't know. I really don't know. I think you're in very thin ice right now in America, but it'll be worse in Trump's early days in office because the country will be very disorganized. Trump won't have his Secretary of Defense and Homeland Security and people in the Justice Department. It'll take weeks to get these people seated in. Got to be approved by Congress, a lot of them, and then they got to get their own people in turn in place. That's when America's most vulnerable, not now. So they might be saving the sleeper agents for that. I don't know what they're going to do, but yeah, America's going to be even more vulnerable on the 20th. Airplanes are rather safe. The downside to the airplanes is you have millions of sleeper agents in the U.S., and China has 350,000 acres of land. Much of it is next to U.S. bases, and they could be building missiles at this land, and they could have missiles to shoot down planes. The likelihood of this is, I would say, extremely minimal. The airports are very, very highly secured places, and I think you're in good shape at the airports. So I think the airports are probably the safest means of travel. That's been the way it works in Israel. We have railroads like Amtrak and Southern Pacific, and they've been very safe. And we've had light rail, which is streetcars, and people have been injured at the stops waiting for the car to come. People on buses have been injured many, many times with bombs and so forth. They could fire at buses from the street. To do that, usually you need a powerful weapon. You could do it with a pistol, but it's iffy because you've got a metal body of a bus, and so you could shoot it with rifles and just hit the people inside. That's been done in Israel. A lot of our buses in the territories are armored, the glass and the body, and you can't get through it with a rifle. I mean, probably a 50 caliber armor piercing will go through, but your standard AK-47 M16 will not. They do what they call a lynching. That's not a term that works for Americans. A lynching means, in the 1890s, you'd storm the sheriff's office, have your horse pull the bars out of the window of the cell where the prisoner condemned to die is, grab him and put a rope around his neck and throw it over a tree and hang him. That's a lynching. What they call a lynching is a carjacking. But not like an American carjacking. An American carjacker has to take the row of cars in front of the red light. Okay? There needs to be a red light. The traffic is stopped. And then he has to get the first car in the row, with the first cars if it's 2 or 3 lanes in the rows. If he goes 3 or 4 cars back, he can't get away. He's boxed in traffic. So he gets the people and he throws them out of the car and takes the car and drives away, running the red light. And That's a carjacking. What they do here is to attack the car with anything they got. It could be a gun, it could be rocks, it could be sticks. Get the person, of course, the car needs to be stopped for some reason, and then drag the people out and beat them to death or rape them or beat them to a pulp and leave them there to go to the emergency room and stuff like that. They call that a lynching. It does go on. I don't think you're in high risk in America for that. Too many people got guns in their cars, they'll just start shooting back. Terrorists don't do home invasions. That's something that's so rare. We have seen it on the settlements in the territories where they sneak in and break into someone's house and kill the kids in bed and all that, but it's so very rare. It really is pretty rare. It's a high risk for them. It's easy to get caught, and the yield in terms of terrorism cause deaths is very small, so they don't like it. Are hospitals the target area? Nah, generally not. What should you do if you're like in a restaurant or some store and they come in shooting? Well, if you've got a gun and you know how to use it, kill them. If you don't got a gun and you see it coming, probably get the heck out of the store if possible. If you can't, and you're trapped, try to, if you know how to fight, try to rush the guy and take him on. Once you close distance with a guy with a gun and he hasn't shot you, it's not that hard to just keep your hand on the gun hand and start sticking your fingers in his eyes. But I mean, you got to know how to do this kind of stuff. I mean, you don't start punching him in the mouth. You could come down hard on his nose and fracture his nose, cause him to get bewildered, but your best bet is to start drilling into his eyes, and not everybody's going to do that. Not just poke him. I mean, really go push your finger in, not to just hit his eye, like you're trying to have your finger come out the back of his head, that kind of push. You're like, that, I don't know how many of you would do that. If you had a fork, it makes it easier, but it's a bad situation. So if you're going to go to a restaurant, how do you play this? Don't go to a ground floor restaurant. They're not going to want to go upstairs and stuff like that. Just go to a restaurant that's not easily gotten to. What about a food court in a mall where they got 25 little kiosk, restaurants serving food? Very good place. Where do you sit in that restaurant, in that food court? You sit as close as you can to the entrance so you could run out into the mall. And if you can't get a seat very, very close to that open area where you could run out into the mall, don't go there. Because they're not going to start working the food court right at the entrance. They're going to go deeper in, probably at least 30, 40 feet. And then when you see that, you get the heck out, dive out. What about attacks in parking lots and stuff? Not all that likely. They don't like that. Dark, dingy parking lot or underground where they can get one or two people. They want to get a crowd of people. They're not looking to do that onesie, twosie. That's a robber, a junkie, a drug addict. That's what that is. They're not looking to do that. No. What about going into a store like a clothing store, a shoe store? Highly unlikely. It's not what they're looking for. Restaurants, people are drinking alcohol, they're relaxed, they're sitting down, they're absorbed with the meal, they're absorbed with the conversation, they're likely going to be taken off guard. People who work in the restaurant are worried about serving the meal, bussing the tables, getting the check paid. They're also absorbed. Everybody's absorbed. It's a good one in a restaurant. If it's street level, The outside cafes are very dangerous. Where you're sitting outside in the street, they can car ram you, just walk up and shoot you. Many people can get shot at the same time. Avoid the heck out of that. That is asking for trouble. It's also easy to get robbed out there. Someone comes up there and just presents a gun and says, "Give me your money. Give me your wallet. Give me your credit cards. Give me this. Give me that. Give me your watch. Give me your purse." Quietly and softly, and nobody may not. People may not know what's going on. And then he runs away. Is it likely you see them come on a motorcycle with a guy in the back shooting and the other one driving? Unlikely. Very unlikely. A drive-by shooting could happen. It's not their favorite method at all, but it occasionally occurs. It's not that rare and it's not that common, but it does happen. In Israel, they like to go after soldiers and police. I do not think you'll see that at all in America. What are the targets? Do they go to hospitals? No. Do they go to schools? Nah. Schools usually have the school police, which have a gun. They'll engage the terrorists. It's very, very bad publicity for them to attack a school or a nursing home or a hospital. And I'm not too interested in that. I haven't seen it. It could pop up, but I wouldn't plan on it. I don't think they'll do that. And like I said, airports, no. Train stations, bus stations are very, very dangerous because they could easily attack a large amount of people in a very small, concentrated area at a subway station, a bus station, a train station, a loading area for a ferry boat, any of that stuff, bus stops where people build lines. You got to avoid the daylight side of these places. You're very vulnerable there. A department store like a Walmart, Saks Fifth Avenue, or something like that, pretty unlikely. People are spread out real good in those places. They don't like it. The same with a big supermarket. People are spread out pretty good. Not, um, well, in Israel, the supermarkets have security guards with guns checking people coming in. So it doesn't, they don't like that. In America, I don't know. Some places have a cop, an off-duty cop. They got security. I don't know. They might try supermarkets. They might try it. It's not an ideal location, but they can run around, and hit a lot of people in the 4 or 5 minutes it'll take to get a police response. Cruise ships, yeah. They did one once like 25, 35 years ago, and they're not going to do that. I don't think they're going to do it. Cruise ships got some degree of security. Eh, unlikely. I don't think so. Um, but again, you're in end times. They may try something like that, but I'm not expecting it. I wouldn't expect it. Amusement parks, it depends what kind of security they got. You know, and it depends on who the terrorist is and what kind of gun he has. And not sure on that one. It could happen. Again, it's going to be by the park. Disney and Universal Studios usually have pretty decent security, so I don't know. Las Vegas casinos, I doubt they'll do anything in the casino. Las Vegas stands for all that they seem to dislike, so street attacks in Vegas could happen, but the police are pretty sharp in Vegas. But, you know, they're playing the martyr game, so they might hit Vegas. What about a football game, a baseball game, a basketball game, a hockey game? My advice, watch it on TV. I wouldn't go. You have a large amount of people there in a very close knit area, and it's a good target for terrorists. So I wouldn't go there. Not a good thing to do. I wouldn't do it. What else can you hit? Can they hit? This could be different. It's not Israel. They may hit schools. They may hit hospitals. I don't know. I really don't know what they'll do in terms of that. All right. That's what I got for today. I hope you enjoyed it, got something out of it. Thank you for all the prayers. I'm pretty much healed from the morning of Yafa. And please keep your prayers coming up for Trixie the dog. We all know how painful it is. It's like losing a family member, not exactly, but it's close. And please pray for me and my wife for our peace, safety, protection, joy, healing. Keep praying for the lost keys. We don't know what happened to them. Please keep praying that my wife finds the lost keys. And pray for Chief that he's not in mourning and he stays healthy. And pray for our animals and pets that are all rescues. And you guys can ask me questions. You know where my email address is. The top of the chat, bottom of the description box. It's Israel Giving with the number 7 at Gmail. You can ask me questions. And you know, I think we should all be expecting Elijah pretty soon. Now, let me ask you a question. If Elijah was operating openly, that's Elijah in Jerusalem, training the Levites, etc., would you not want to come here to visit Elijah? How many of you would not want to come? And this would not be the next great Exodus. This would be you go get on El Al and you buy a seat and you fly over. And you think Elijah may be needing some help in those days? If you got the true gospel. Anyway, I send my shalom to all, my Shabbat shalom. It's going to be Friday night. Send my Shabbat shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I'll keep you guys posted. I'm following this terrorism stuff very carefully. And we'll probably pick up stuff in Israel on social media about America that would be escaping the mainstream media. But maybe not. Mainstream media is good for after reporting. But in terms of other things, we might pick some stuff up here. I don't know. We may not. So that's what I got. And I really hope you got something out of this and be looking forward to Elijah working openly. That's going to come pretty quickly, I think. And you know what I meant when I said prayers about the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, right? And of course you know. Okay, and we'll close on this year in Jerusalem. Maybe this month in Jerusalem, even. Who knows?